sinners, and saints. Dust off those horns and halos. It's time for Alan After Dark.
You know, sinners and saints, I have always had a tolerance for people who want to practice their religion. You have that right. I respect that. But I am getting more and more sick of these arrogant assholes who act like that they are the moral superior and that they can impose their beliefs upon me and others who don't believe like them. It really does piss me off that they believe that because they've adopted some sort of religious belief that they know better than the rest of us. And every so often I get into a confrontation with someone who is devoutly religious and knows everything about everything in the world and why it is the way it is and what you should do to make it better. And sometimes I just can't help myself. I will sometimes clap back at people who are being bitches about their religious beliefs. I respectfully dismissed a person, told them that I did not want to talk about their faith or their beliefs on a certain day of this week because I was having a bad day and I was pissed off. And they started spouting off about free will and that it was my right to dismiss them, but there are consequences. And of course, I couldn't let that go. And I said, I find it very interesting that you claim that God gives us free will, but then he will punish us for practicing our free will. Does that make sense to you? Because if we get punished for using free will, then it's not free will. And I left them speechless. Can you believe that shit? Really? You're going to come at me, a boy who was raised in a Baptist church with a father who was a Baptist deacon, who had it drummed in his head for years and years and years about how I was going to hell for being a gay person and that everything virtually under the sun is a sin? But it's only a sin if you get caught. That's the Baptist way. You know, that's why I've always kind of scoffed at Christianity. Literally, all you have to do is believe and ask for forgiveness, and you're forgiven, no matter what it is. You could have killed 30 people, but according to that religion, all you have to do is believe in your heart that Jesus is the Savior and confess with our mouth, and all is forgiven. Even if you committed 20 million murders, you are going to get to go straight into heaven. And that's why a lot of people choose Christianity, because it appears to be the easiest. But if they get down into their teachings, they would realize that it's not. But anyway, obviously somebody who claimed to be religious was harassing me and I had to harass back. Go figure, right? You know, when somebody acts like that, what it tells me is that they really aren't secure in their beliefs. If you really were secure in your beliefs, you wouldn't have to spout off like some of these people do. You're trying to convince yourself, and you think by convincing someone else to believe like you do, you're really just trying to reinforce your own belief because you really do have doubts. Kind of a sad way to live, don't you think? I think so. Oh, God, I hate the world today. Partly because I had a crotch blowout in my jeans that I did not realize was there until I get to the grocery store. So half my chimichanga is hanging out. Thankfully, I had on a really nice pair of Calvin Klein boxer briefs underneath. But even worse, nobody even seemed to notice. Damn. Talk about kicking my ego in the nuts. That did. At least nobody left sick or anything. By the way, I also was accosted by a bird in the grocery store this week. Yeah, you heard me right. A bird. I guess they left the door open from the outside for a good little while and the bird decided to pay a visit. And how the hell do you get a bird out of a grocery store? I just don't know. I mean, if it wanted to help me shop, that's great. But it didn't have to follow me from aisle to aisle, chirping like a little bitch, judging me for everything that I bought. Maybe it was trying to tell me to buy it some birdseed. Well, it's too late now. You know, it's always the little things that seem to get under your skin more than sometimes the big things. For example, about once a week, I will use a little bit of beard oil to moisturize my beard and help with the dryness that can occur with beards. And for some reason, I didn't notice until I get to the office that I must have dripped too much in one area because I had two little greasy stains on my shirt. And I just didn't have the will to try to drive all the way back home and change shirts. And it was one of the few times that I, for some reason, did not have an extra shirt in the car. So I suffered through it. Yes, I tried to wash it out, use some water and all that, and it just didn't come out. Well, a couple of the guys offered me a Tide stick, to try to get it out, as if it's a stain or whatever that does. I don't know what those sticks do, for God's sake, Jesus. Anyway, I suffered through it and managed. And once again, most people didn't notice. That's kind of ironic, too. Usually people notice the things that you don't want them to notice. If you wanted them to notice you, they wouldn't notice you. Make sense? Sounds like people, doesn't it? Speaking of people, have you seen those videos like on TikTok or maybe Threads or Instagram where they're showing people, like they'll show somebody who's in need, like they might have stumbled and dropped their groceries or something like that, or maybe have stumbled and fallen? Well, there was one that I saw where the guy was supposedly blind and he comes up to people unaware and touches them, grabs them by the arm, as if he wants that person to lead him somewhere. A lot of people are startled and react and jerk their arm away and look in shock at the person who's touched them. And I guess they're trying to say that people are horrible for doing that. But I started thinking, how do you trust people, though? If somebody was to grab me and I was not aware of it, I would react the same way. I would look at them and I would have to debate, are they really blind or are they trying to mess with me or something? I know that sounds cynical because it is cynical. In the world we live, I just don't know that I trust very many people. Like, for example, let's say you see a man in a wheelchair outside the grocery store and he says, "Can you give me a ride?" Would you do it? Do you trust a person enough, a total stranger, to allow them in your car? I'm not so sure that I do. Yes, that's on me. But I've seen too many news stories of people offering to help someone and getting raped and pillaged or shot in the head. I don't think it's a black and white answer for any of that. I think it does depend upon the circumstances. Certainly, if I'm following somebody and their bag breaks and their oranges go racing across the parking lot, sure, I'm going to try to help them. Of course, it's a clear problem that's happened that I was witness to. But if I see somebody that's kind of lurking around the front entrance of a grocery store and then comes up behind me and says, "Hey, can I have a ride?" No, I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't trust people enough to risk my own safety. Maybe that's what that religious guy was talking about when he was referring to free will. Maybe he meant that that was my decision to make. Well, I have one thing to say about that. Maybe God could give this guy the ability to get to that place that he's going without needing somebody else's help. After all, he's God, right? He could just provide the guy with wings and let him fly. Or give him a car or something, right? Do I sound drunk? Am I? No, I'm really not. If I was, that would be the time that I would probably allow the blind man to take my arm so I could guide him to wherever he was wanting to go. And that would be the one that winds up being the pickpocket robber, and they find my body in a back alley 3 days later, half naked with all my money and my shoes and clothes gone. See, I'm very cynical. If we're all honest, being cynical, not trusting people, can be a very good way to protect yourself. That theory alone is cynical, isn't it? But it's a big step to open yourself up to trusting someone. And we were discussing this too the other day about what defines love. Now, I that's a broad statement there, I know. But when someone tries to put parameters on what love means in a relationship, isn't that a huge red flag? Like in one instance that I'm aware of, it seems like the one person requires the other to believe anything that he says. If he says the sun is the moon, the other one is supposed to believe it. Because if you loved him, you would believe everything he says. I find that very troubling. I find that to be a form of manipulation. No one is right 100% of the time. And for someone to try to behave that way and make the claim that they are, or that they expect the person that loves them to believe that they're always right 100% of the time, to me, that's just too much. I am not going to tolerate that. And the people these days that are in these relationships where they're always fighting and breaking up and just wreaking havoc with each other's lives, I am just, I guess, too old to deal with that shit. Once drama starts that's out of the ordinary, I'm done with it. I really can't stand to be part of drama like that. I don't want to be. Life is too short, and I say that too much, I know. But it is to deal with bullshit. We all know people that do that. They always cause trouble. They always seem to be at the center of a hurricane. And maybe they live for that. Maybe that's what they like. Maybe they just want to be messy bitches or something. But for me, I just don't understand what satisfaction one gets from that, from creating chaos. Could you imagine a world where there were no Karens or Kevins, that we had no drama and people were just nice and got along? That's impossible, isn't it? Wasn't it on the X-Files, the original series, the one about the genie and Fox Mulder made the wish of world peace, and the genie, she was like, "You sure about that?" And he said, "Absolutely." And then she granted the wish, and he was the only person on the planet. And he goes, "Yeah, I get it. We'll never have peace with more than one person on the planet." So it's true, isn't it? There'll never be peace with everyone. No matter what we strive for, it probably isn't going to happen. But I just can't tolerate it. It wouldn't matter if the dick was the best dick I ever got in my life. I am not down with some asshole guy who is going to treat me like a punching bag, emotionally, physically, or otherwise. You know what I mean? People don't have to be dicks all the time, even though some people want to be dicks all the time. Speaking of dicks, do you think that if the orange turd had at least an average size dick and not a little micro penis, he would stop being a dick? I doubt it. It's hard to really ignore the stupidity of the state of Tennessee. We keep declining further and further down this hole of racism and bigotry and fascism. I'm beginning to wonder if they'll arrest me for recording Alan After Dark within the state borders. The way we're going here, it's a real possibility. I believe The Handmaid's Tale is closer to becoming a reality here than pretty much anywhere else. Bunch of right-wing Republicans. I'm starting to call them the greedy old pedophile party. You know, GOP. Makes sense, doesn't it? If they spend as much time on health care and education as they do on protecting the pedophiles in the Epstein files, they might actually accomplish something positive for people. But they don't want that. They want to punish anybody who's not a Republican and won't lick the shoes of the orange turd. Ugh, God. Just, nasty. You all may not know this, but literally here in this state, they passed a law banning the use of Sharia or Muslim law into state law. They did that, really. as if that's a thing. Once again, trying to demonize Muslims, make people afraid of them, even though when you compare quote unquote Sharia law to Christian law, there's very little difference. So I've always encouraged people to sue the state when they pass some of these anti-trans bills and anti-voting bills and bills that hurt the homeless and minorities, to challenge them in court saying state law says you can't use Sharia law, and this sounds like Sharia law, not Christian law. Make them prove that it's not Sharia law, you know? Boy, that was a bunch of random shit right there, wasn't it? Jesus. I hate the world today. I really do. I am just, once again, so fed up with so much bullshit from these right-wing politicians. Did you all see that so-called evangelical pastors were in Mar-a-Lago and they were saying prayers and dedicating that fucking gold statue of the orange turd? I mean, there's literally stories in the Bible about people being destroyed for worshiping the golden calf. One of them had to say up front, this is not a golden calf. This is not that. Well, bitch, if you have to say it, it probably is, don't you think? But that's how far they've gone. They are trying to make this moronic pedophile into some sort of divine entity. I mean, they really are trying to treat him like God. It is really fucked up. It really is. I just don't know what we're going to do. And to my brothers and sisters in the United Kingdom, what the hell is going on over there? Why would anybody vote for Nigel Farage and his Reform Party? He is nothing but Trump with a snazzier suit, I guess. I don't even know that for sure. But why are you going down that rabbit hole with that asshole? Have you all not seen what Trump and Republicans have done to this country? Do you really want the same thing done to your country? You all be crazy. Crazy as we are. I gotta say, last night at happy hour, I did some big time flirting with this hot guy. And I feel so bad because right now, I can't even remember his name. He is really cute though. And I'm sure I was overbearing, over loud, and drunk. And he probably hates me today. But I think in that brisk 10 to 15 minutes of conversation, he really enjoyed himself. Yeah, that's what I'm going to tell myself. Well, I don't have a black eye. He didn't punch me in the head or anything, so it must not have been that bad. But I gotta say, it's very different these days in how people flirt and communicate with each other in a bar or a club environment. It's just not the same as it was. I'm disappointed in that. I don't think anybody else thinks it's very abnormal how things are done now. But it is really strange to me to be sitting at a bar, which is a social environment, and see everybody else that's sitting at the bar staring at their phones. I mean, honestly, can't you do that at home? Probably cheaper for you too if you did stay home, right? Because you're clearly not looking for personal connection, at least physically face to face. You're looking for digital connection. Am I right? I think I am. I mean, honestly, if I'm going to be truthful about the whole situation, I got more conversation from that Bible beater than I do from gay guys sitting right next to me. Now, what's wrong with that picture? Lord Jesus, I can't believe that we're already here at the end of another episode of Alan After Dark. But here it is, once again. I have had a blast today talking to you all, and I hope you've had fun too. And I look forward to talking to you again next week. But as always, remember, take life by the balls and be real. We'll see you soon.